Funny how the world dresses poison like candy. They put lights on it, music around it, call it opportunity, call it freedom, call it love. And people walk right in with smiles on their faces, thinking they've found gold, when all they've done is step into a cage. That's the trick. Traps don't look like traps until you're already caught. And when the whisper comes, it's all a trap. Most laugh it off, too blind, too proud, too desperate to see the chains waiting for them. But the warning is never wrong. Everything shiny isn't treasure. Everything loud isn't truth. And every path that looks too easy hides teeth waiting to bite. Traps hide behind beauty and comfort. That's the cruel design of them. Nobody falls into something that looks dangerous. Danger is obvious. And obvious danger makes people run. The clever ones, though, they don't make cages with barbed wire and chains. They make them with silk, with velvet, with golden paint. They make the trap look like exactly what you've been starving for. So when you see it, you don't hesitate, you rush. You run right into it thinking you've found salvation, when in reality, you've stepped into your own undoing. Think about it. The sweetest lies are always dressed up to look like the truth you've been waiting to hear. The deal that seems too good to be true, the relationship that starts with fireworks, the shortcut that promises success without sweat. All of it shines, sparkles, glows, and that glow blinds you. It numbs the questions in your head, silences the alarms in your gut, until you've convinced yourself it's destiny. But the shine fades fast, and when it does, you see the bars. By then, it's too late. That's the thing about comfort. It makes people stupid. Give someone a soft pillow, a pat on the back, a little praise, and they'll hand over their freedom without a fight. They stop looking deeper. They stop asking why. They stop noticing the fine print written under the glitter. Comfort seduces you, and once you're hooked, you won't even realize the ground beneath you is quicksand. You'll smile, relax, tell yourself you've made it, while the trap quietly tightens its grip. The ugliest traps never look ugly. They're painted with promises, decorated with charm, wrapped in everything you thought you wanted. That's why they work so well, because you don't second guess what looks perfect. You crave it. You chase it. You defend it even when it starts to suffocate you. You'll tell yourself lies to protect the illusion, because facing the truth means admitting you were fooled. And nobody likes admitting that. Nobody likes to realize they walked willingly into a cage. It's not just about the big things either. Look at habits. Look at addictions. They don't come to you saying, "I'll destroy your life." No, they whisper, "I'll make you feel good." The first taste is sweet. The first moment feels like relief, like release, like joy. That's the hook. And before you know it, the sweetness is gone, but the chains remain. That's how traps work. Beauty up front, destruction hiding behind. And you can't even blame the trap. Its job is to deceive. Your job is to see. If you keep falling for the same shine, it's not the cage that's stupid, it's you. People love to cry that they were tricked, fooled, manipulated, but the signs were there. The two perfect smiles, the two easy promises, the two smooth roads. They all scream warning. You just didn't want to hear it. You wanted the comfort more than the truth, and so you paid the price. There's a reason warnings always sound harsh. Be careful. Don't trust that. Stay away. They sound like chains, like restrictions, but really, they're freedom. The harsh voice saves you from the soft lie, but most ignore it because the lie feels better. And so they keep stepping into traps that were never hidden, just disguised. Beauty and comfort, they're the perfect camouflage. That's why the most dangerous prisons are the ones people choose for themselves. They decorate their own cages, convince themselves it's a palace, and laugh at anyone who tries to tell them otherwise. But cages stay cages, no matter how pretty the paint. And by the time they finally realize it, the door has already locked behind them. Easy paths demand the highest price. That's the irony people never want to face. They see the smooth road, the one without obstacles, and they think they've been blessed. No sweat, no struggle, no resistance. Just walk forward and collect the reward. But life doesn't work that way. Anything worth having takes blood, sweat, and scars. And if it doesn't, then the cost is hiding in the shadows, waiting for you when you least expect it. The easy path whispers like a friend. It tells you you're special, that you deserve things without effort, that you've been chosen for shortcuts others can't have. And you want to believe it, because who doesn't want the crown without the weight? Who doesn't want the victory without the battle? So you step onto that path, smiling, thinking you've outsmarted the grind. But every step forward on that road is a debt. A debt you don't see yet, but it's stacking up, and one day it comes to collect. And when it does, the price isn't small, it's everything. Look at the ones who chase success through shortcuts. They copy, they steal, they cheat, and for a moment, it looks like they've won. They shine brighter, faster than those breaking themselves in the dirt. But time has a way of exposing false crowns. The easy path has no foundation. The ground beneath it is hollow, and eventually it collapses. And when it does, they don't just fall back to where they started. They fall deeper. Because nothing eats a soul faster than realizing all the so-called progress was a lie. Think about relationships built on easy charm, on flattery instead of truth. They sparkle in the beginning, smooth and sweet, no rough edges, no tests, no friction. Feels perfect, right? But perfection with no struggle is a trick. Because real love, real bonds are forged in storms, not sunshine. The easy bond falls apart at the first crack because it has no roots. The moment things stop being convenient, it breaks. That's the hidden price. You thought you had something solid, but it was air all along. Even with yourself, the pattern repeats. Take the easy path with your health, your habits, your choices. Ignore discipline, chase comfort. Skip the hard work, and you'll pay with years of regret. You'll pay with a body that betrays you, a mind that weakens, a spirit that decays. Every cigarette, every skipped step, every ignored warning feels easy in the moment. But the price tag is waiting, and it doesn't charge you small. It charges you all at once, when you can least afford it. The cruel joke is, people think struggle is punishment. They think hardship means they're unlucky, unloved, cursed. But the truth, struggle is proof the path is real. Resistance is the test that shows you're walking somewhere worth going. The easy road doesn't test you because it doesn't lead anywhere. It doesn't care who walks it because it ends in the same pit for everyone. That's why it feels so smooth. It's a funnel, pulling you quietly into ruin while making you believe you're safe. But here's the thing. The price isn't always obvious. Sometimes it's not money, not health, not even freedom. Sometimes it's you. Your spirit, your drive, your fire. You take the easy path enough times, and you start to hollow out. You become soft, weak, addicted to shortcuts, incapable of facing anything real. And by the time you realize what you've lost, you don't even know how to fight anymore. That's the cruelest price of all. Not just losing what you wanted, but losing who you could have been. So when you see the road with no struggle, no resistance, no scars, don't smile. Don't celebrate. Ask yourself what it's hiding, because every easy step forward is another chain tightening around your neck. And when the bill comes due, it'll demand more than you ever thought you had. Deception feeds on blind desire. That's the weakness every trap relies on. It doesn't need chains or cages when people will walk willingly into the lie, eyes wide shut, because it promised them exactly what they craved. Desire is the bait. Blindness is the hook. Once you want something badly enough, you'll ignore every red flag, every warning sign, every whisper of doubt, just to keep chasing the glow of it. And that's when deception owns you. It starts small, a promise of something sweet. Money without work, love without pain, respect without sacrifice, and because you've been starving for it, you bite without hesitation. The hunger blinds you. You don't see the trap, because all you see is the fantasy of finally getting what you've wanted for so long. That's why the sharpest lies always come dressed as your deepest wish. They don't have to force you. They don't have to drag you. They just lure you with what you already ache for, and you'll chain yourself. The danger isn't the desire itself. Desire can be fuel, fire, power. But blind desire, that's poison. That's when you want so badly that you refuse to question. You stop thinking. You stop discerning. You tell yourself stories to make the illusion feel real. You become your own deceiver, building castles in the air and defending them with your life, even though the foundation is quicksand. Deception doesn't have to be clever when people are desperate enough to fool themselves. Look at how people fall for fake love. The sweet words, the constant attention, the fireworks in the beginning. It looks perfect, feels perfect, but only because it's feeding on what they've longed for. Loneliness makes people blind. They don't see the inconsistencies, the manipulation, the cracks, because they don't want to. They'd rather hold on to the dream than face the nightmare. And by the time they realize it was all a performance, the damage is already done. The heart has been drained dry, and the deceiver walks away laughing. It's the same with ambition. Flashy promises of overnight success, easy money, instant recognition. They sell it to you because they know you're tired of waiting, tired of grinding, tired of being overlooked. So they dangle the bait, and you rush toward it blind with hunger. And then comes the collapse. The money vanishes, the opportunities dry up, the so-called success leaves you hollow. Because you didn't earn it, you were played by it, and blind desire kept you from seeing the trick. Here's the twisted part. Desire makes you complicit in your own downfall. Nobody has to drag you into the trap when your own hunger pushes you in. You justify, excuse, rationalize, all to protect the illusion. You silence your gut when it screams. You ignore the voices that warn you. You defend the very thing destroying you, because without it, you'd have to admit you were deceived, and that shame is heavier than the chains themselves. Deception thrives in shadows, but blind desire pulls the blindfold over your own eyes. You don't want the truth, because the truth would mean waiting longer, working harder, enduring more pain. And people don't want that. They want the shortcut, the sugar, the rush. They want the dream now, even if it's a lie. So deception doesn't have to chase them. It just has to wait. Wait until the hunger is unbearable. Wait until the desire blinds them. Then it steps in, smiling, offering exactly what they asked for. And they take it, thanking their captor as they lock the cage themselves. Blind desire isn't just weakness. It's a weapon. The cruelest part of it is this deception can't hurt you unless you give it permission. It can only feed on the hunger you refuse to control. And the more desperate you are, the sharper its teeth become. What you crave the most is always the easiest way to be trapped. Ignoring warnings guarantees captivity. The world doesn't just throw you into traps without flashing the signs first. The signs are always there. Subtle, quiet, inconvenient, but there. A gut feeling that something's off. A whisper that tells you to slow down. A red flag waving in plain sight while you laugh it off and keep moving forward. That's how it always happens. Nobody is truly blindsided. They're just willfully blind. And when you refuse to listen, when you silence the alarms, you hand the key of your freedom over without a fight. Think about it. How many times have you said, "I knew it," after the damage was done? That moment where you look back and realize the clues were screaming at you. The friend who showed their cracks early, but you ignored it. The deal that looked too sweet, but you signed anyway. The habit that started small, but felt wrong from the start. Warnings don't come wrapped in neon lights. They come in whispers, in tension, in hesitation. And ignoring them doesn't make them vanish. It makes them louder later, when it's too late to escape. The cruel thing about warnings is that they always feel inconvenient. They get in the way of your excitement, your comfort, your hunger. You don't want to hear. Stop when your desire says, go. You don't want to face danger when your fantasy screams, finally. So you dismiss the warnings, laugh at them, call them paranoia, call them overthinking. But the cage doesn't care what you call it. Once you walk in, the door still shuts behind you. It's not just external warnings either. It's the ones inside you. The gut that twists when something isn't right. The restless feeling when you're about to make a mistake. The tiny voice you drown out with noise. That's your survival system screaming, but you've trained yourself to silence it. You replace it with excuses. It'll be fine. Maybe I'm just imagining things. I don't want to overthink. Those little phrases are the nails sealing your own coffin. You're not overthinking. You're ignoring the guard dog barking at the door. Captivity doesn't happen all at once. It happens step by step. Every ignored warning is another chain around your ankle. You don't notice at first, because the chains are light. They let you move. They let you pretend you're free. But eventually, the weight drags. Eventually, you realize you can't move as far, can't breathe as freely. That's when you remember the warnings. That's when you replay the moments you dismissed, the red flags you excused. By then, it's no longer a matter of choice. You're caught, and the only way out is through pain you could have avoided. Look at history, at people, at yourself. Every downfall is built on ignored warnings. Leaders who saw the signs but pushed them aside. Lovers who noticed the lies but pretended not to. Addicts who felt the first burn but told themselves it was harmless. Warnings are mercy. They're lifelines. But when you treat them like noise, captivity becomes the only teacher left. And captivity doesn't whisper. It screams. The saddest part is that most people don't ignore warnings out of ignorance. They ignore them out of pride. They don't want to be told no. They don't want to admit they're wrong. They don't want to step back because it feels like weakness. So they push forward, blind and stubborn, only to learn the hard way that the warning was the only gift they were going to get. And once it's gone, once the trap snaps shut, all that's left is regret. You can't escape captivity if you silence the very signals designed to save you. You can't cry. Unfair. When you were warned 100 times before you fell. Ignoring the warning isn't bravery. It's surrender. You don't defeat the trap by pretending it isn't there. You defeat it by listening before it's too late. True freedom requires painful awareness. Most people don't want freedom, not really. They want comfort dressed as freedom. They want chains that feel soft, cages that look golden, rules that don't pinch too hard. Real freedom. That's too raw, too demanding, too heavy to carry. Because freedom doesn't come without responsibility. It doesn't come without seeing the ugliness in yourself and in the world. And that awareness cuts deep. So deep that most people would rather stay blind than bleed their way into clarity. Freedom is not just walking without chains. It's knowing where the chains were, why they were there, and how easily they can return. That knowledge is painful. Once you see how the world manipulates, how people deceive, how systems are built to trap you, you can't unsee it. Every smile becomes a mask, every gift a test, every open door a possible cage. And that kind of vision burns. It strips away innocence. It kills illusions. It makes comfort impossible. But that's the price. If you want to be free, You have to pay with your illusions. People think ignorance is weakness, but ignorance is easy. It's sweet, it's light, it lets you float. Awareness, though, that's heavy. It makes you carry the weight of choice. You can't play dumb anymore. Can't blame others for your mistakes. Can't say, I didn't know. Once you know, you're accountable. And accountability is the sharpest cutter, but it slices the skin too. That's why most people stay blind. They think they're avoiding pain, but really they're surrendering freedom. Awareness demands sacrifice. You have to give up the fantasy that people are always honest, that every opportunity is pure, that love is always safe. You have to see the rot under the paint, the hooks hidden under the bait, the knife tucked behind the hug. And it hurts, because you want to believe in the pretty version. You want to stay in the dream. But freedom means choosing the truth, even when it tastes like poison. The cruel paradox is this: awareness makes life harder. But it's the only thing that makes you truly free. When you see the trap, you don't walk into it. When you hear the lie, you don't swallow it. When you feel the manipulation, you don't play along. You bleed a little every time. Because facing the truth always cuts, but you bleed on your own terms. You bleed before the chains, not inside them. And here's the secret: freedom isn't glamorous. It's lonely, because the more aware you become, the more distance grows between you and those still asleep. You'll watch them laugh at illusions, celebrate lies, worship cages, and you'll want to shake them awake. But you can't. They'll call you paranoid, bitter, crazy. They'll mock the very awareness that keeps you alive, because blindness loves company. And you'll have to choose: join their delusion or carry the burden of seeing. That choice is what makes freedom so rare. Painful awareness is a mirror. It forces you to face not just the traps around you, but the traps inside you. Your greed, your fear, your hunger. They're the entry points for every cage you ever walked into. And admitting that burns worse than any external betrayal. But once you see it, once you know it, you can't be played the same way again. You've torn away the mask, and freedom waits in the raw, bleeding honesty of that moment. True freedom requires painful awareness, because the truth isn't gentle. It doesn't comfort. It doesn't soothe. It doesn't tuck you in at night. It breaks. It bruises. It strips away illusions you've been clinging to since childhood. But once the breaking is done, once the illusions are dead, what remains is real. And only the real can't be trapped. Only the real can stand without bars. Only the real can breathe without permission. Strange, isn't it? How a place can call to you before you even step inside. You look at four walls, a roof, maybe some doors and windows, and to everyone else it's just a building. But to you, it feels different. It hums. It breathes. It pulls at you like it already knows your name. You can try to ignore it, pretend it's nothing. But deep down you feel it. This space was waiting for your footsteps, your voice, your story to fill it. Some things aren't random. Some places aren't accidents. And when that whisper comes, this house is yours. You either see it now, or you lose it forever. A house becomes alive when it recognizes its owner. To most people, it's just wood, bricks, and stones stacked together. A structure that holds furniture, a roof to keep the rain out, walls to stop the wind from creeping in. But when a place belongs to you, it doesn't feel like an object anymore. It feels like it has a pulse, a strange rhythm that beats only when you're near. The walls aren't silent. They echo differently when your presence fills them. The air doesn't feel stale. It bends as if it's finally breathing the way it was always meant to. That's not fantasy. That's connection. You walk through 1,000 places in your life, and most of them blur into each other. Hotels, halls, rented rooms, lifeless boxes where you exist for a moment and then vanish. But then there's that one place that stops you. You step in, and something inside you whispers, "This is it." You don't even know why. Maybe the light hits the floor a certain way. Maybe the sound of your footsteps feels too familiar. Maybe it's nothing you can explain, but everything you can feel. That's the moment the house recognizes you, the way a mirror recognizes a face. See, places hold memory even before you write yours into them. They wait. They sit quietly, collecting silence, storing up a kind of emptiness that can only be filled by the right person. When that person arrives, the energy shifts. It's almost eerie, like the house exhales after holding its breath too long. People call it intuition or imagination, but it's real. A space that was once cold suddenly feels warm, alive, almost protective. Because ownership isn't just a contract, it's an exchange. The place offers itself to you, and you, in turn, give it meaning. Think about it. A house without its owner is hollow. It doesn't matter how beautiful, how large, how perfect. It feels incomplete, unfinished, like a stage with no actors. But the second you walk in, something aligns. It's not just about filling space with furniture or paint. It's about filling it with presence, with weight, with the sense that the walls finally have a story to hold. A true house doesn't live until the one meant for it steps inside. That's when the heartbeat begins. Most people don't realize this, so they wander from place to place, treating homes like boxes they can trade whenever they feel restless. And that's why nothing ever feels permanent. They never stay long enough to let the house wake up. They never connect enough to make the walls whisper back. But when it's truly yours, the bond is undeniable. Even if it's bare, even if it's broken, even if it's smaller than what you thought you wanted. It feels alive. Because it doesn't just shelter you, it claims you. It's not about luxury. It's not about status. It's about alignment. The house you're meant to have carries your imprint before you ever touch it. That's why some places feel wrong, no matter how much you decorate them, while others feel right the moment you step across the threshold. The house already knows. It's been waiting. And once you recognize it, the bond becomes permanent. It doesn't matter if others walk in. They won't feel what you feel. To them, it's just walls. To you, it's alive. That's why people talk about home as if it breathes. Because it does. Not in the way a body does, but in the way energy does. It holds laughter, arguments, whispers, dreams. It absorbs the life you pour into it and reflects it back. And when it's truly yours, it doesn't just hold your life. It amplifies it. It gives back more than you put in. That's the difference between a building and a home. One is dead space. The other is alive with recognition. A house becomes alive when it recognizes its owner. Because ownership is more than possession. It's belonging. The house belongs to you, but in some unexplainable way, you also belong to it. And when that bond is sealed, the house stops being a place you live in and becomes a part of who you are. Destiny leaves signs. You either see them or miss them. The world isn't as random as people like to believe. You think everything is just coincidence, accidents bumping into each other, luck tossing you around like dice in someone else's game. But deep down, you felt it. Certain things don't happen by chance. A word arrives at the exact moment you need it. A door opens when you were about to collapse from knocking. A stranger's face looks at you like they've known you for lifetimes. These aren't accidents. These are markers. Road signs left along the path to remind you that you're not wandering aimlessly. But here's the problems. Most people don't notice. They're too distracted, too busy staring at the noise to see what's hidden in the silence. Destiny doesn't scream, it whispers. It doesn't shove itself into your chest. It slides in like a shadow. If you're not paying attention, you'll step over it like trash on the street. And later, you'll wonder why nothing ever changes, why the world feels empty, why doors never open. The signs were there. You just ignored them. The truth is, signs aren't always glamorous. They don't come wrapped in gold, glowing under spotlights. Sometimes they show up in the form of discomfort, failure, rejection. That job you lost, that door that slammed, that person who walked away. Maybe that wasn't destruction. Maybe it was direction. But if you only see it as loss, you miss the signal. The path doesn't reveal itself in neon lights. It shows itself through cracks, through interruptions, through the things that jolt you awake. Every time something breaks, it's a clue. But people love to stay asleep, don't they? They complain about the noise instead of hearing the message inside it. When you do start noticing, everything changes. You see patterns where before you only saw chaos. You realize timing isn't coincidence, it's choreography. The person you met wasn't random, they were placed. The door that opened wasn't luck, it was alignment. But this isn't magic, it's awareness. Once your eyes adjust, you can't unsee it. The universe keeps leaving breadcrumbs, but only those willing to slow down and look will ever find them. And don't think signs always feel good. Sometimes they sting. Sometimes they drag you through pain before showing you purpose. That's the trap. People want destiny to feel easy, but the strongest signs are often the hardest to swallow. You pray for clarity, and when it comes you hate it, because it demands change. It demands risk. It demands that you step where you swore you'd never go. But isn't that what growth looks like? If destiny always felt comfortable, everyone would walk their path without hesitation. The truth is, the signs are there to test whether you're ready to pay attention or if you'd rather stay blind. There's a reason people say hindsight is 20/20. When you look back, suddenly all the scattered pieces line up. That conversation, that rejection, that delay, it all led here. You couldn't see it then because you were too busy asking, "Why me?" instead of asking, "What for?" The signs didn't disappear. You just didn't read them. And now, with distance, you finally understand. That's how destiny works. It doesn't spell it out for you in advance. It gives you hints, small pushes, sharp nudges. If you choose to ignore them, you wander in circles. If you choose to follow, the road clears. And maybe the cruelest part of it all is that the signs don't stop coming. Even when you miss one, another shows up. But every missed signal costs you time, energy, opportunities. And if you keep ignoring long enough, you end up so far from where you were meant to be that the signs start to feel meaningless. That's why awareness is survival. That's why paying attention is everything. Because destiny won't beg you to notice. It will simply keep placing the clues until you either wake up or waste away. Ownership begins in the mind before it shows in reality. People think having something means holding it in their hands, signing papers, locking it behind doors. They believe possession is about evidence, about proof the world can see. But that's not how it works. Everything begins as a claim you make inside yourself, long before it ever becomes visible. You don't walk into a place and wait for someone to hand you the keys. You walk in already knowing it's yours, already carrying that weight in your chest. The world doesn't confirm it first. You do. Look at how weak people move through life. They wait for approval. They wait for permission. They wait for proof before they allow themselves to believe. And so they never get far. Because here's the truth. Life doesn't give gifts to the hesitant. If you don't claim it in your mind, you'll never hold it in your hands. You can stand in front of the very thing meant for you and still lose it because you were too uncertain, too blind, too timid to recognize it was already yours. Ownership isn't about waiting. It's about declaring. Think about how a predator claims its territory. It doesn't ask anyone's opinion. It doesn't hold a debate. It marks it fiercely, instinctively. That's not arrogance. That's survival. That's how life respects strength. Because when you decide something belongs to you, you move differently. You protect it. You invest in it. You refuse to let anyone else take it. But if you wait until the world hands it over politely, someone hungrier, someone bolder, someone who already claimed it in their mind will snatch it from you while you're still daydreaming. People don't understand that reality bends to belief. If you walk into a room uncertain, the room rejects you. If you step into it like it's already yours, the space adjusts. The energy shifts. The opportunities lean toward you. That's not fantasy. It's human psychology. People sense conviction. They sense ownership before the paperwork exists. And the universe itself seems to align with those who already see what isn't there yet. It's the invisible claim that makes the visible possible. But here's the catch. You can't fake it. Pretending you own something you don't believe in crumbles fast. Real ownership comes from deep certainty. The kind that doesn't need to scream. It's in the way you carry yourself, the way you stand, the way you act when nobody's watching. That inner claim has to be unshakable, or the first gust of resistance will strip it away. That's why so many people quit halfway. They thought they could trick themselves into confidence, but their foundation was hollow. Ownership starts in the mind, and if your mind isn't firm, your reality will collapse. This is why people sabotage themselves. They dream about a life, a house, a relationship, but deep down they don't believe they deserve it. And because they don't believe, they never step fully into it. Even if the door opens, they hesitate at the threshold. Even if the chance is handed to them, they let it slip through their fingers. Not because it wasn't meant for them, but because they never claimed it inside first. The mind rejected what the world was ready to give. When you claim ownership mentally, everything else follows. Your actions change, your energy shifts, your decisions sharpen. You stop asking, "What if it's not for me?" and start asking, "How do I build what's already mine?" That shift is brutal. It takes you out of the victim's seat and puts you in the driver's seat. It strips away excuses. Because once you've owned it in your mind, you no longer wait. You act like someone who's protecting what already belongs to them. The cruel irony is that the world mirrors what you believe. If you move as if you're undeserving, the world treats you that way. If you move as if you're already an owner, the world slowly conforms. It might resist at first, it might push back, but it bends eventually. Ownership is contagious. People start to see what you see. Doors begin to open. The life you imagined starts to solidify because you never treated it as imagination. You treated it as inevitable. Ownership begins in the mind. And that's why most never taste it. They're waiting for proof before they believe, not realizing belief itself is the proof. The claim inside you is the seed, and without it, nothing ever grows. Doors open only when you believe they're meant for you. People walk past opportunities every single day, staring at them like strangers, whispering to themselves that those doors belong to someone else. They convince themselves they're not ready, not worthy, not chosen, and so they never even touch the handle. What they don't understand is that the door was never locked. It was waiting. But the rule is simple. If you don't believe it's yours, it stays closed. Belief is the key. Not credentials, not money, not permission. Belief. The world doesn't hand things to doubters. It responds to certainty. The moment you decide a door is yours, something changes. Your body moves with a different rhythm. Your voice carries a different weight. Your steps no longer hesitate. People can sense it. The universe can sense it. The door itself, as strange as it sounds, seems to sense it. Because doors are symbolic. They don't swing open for those who beg. They swing open for those who claim. Think about it. You've seen people with less talent, less strength, less ability rise higher than others who were clearly more qualified. Why? because they believed. They walked toward doors like they belonged inside. They didn't waste time asking if they were good enough. They acted like the question had already been answered. That's the difference. Not skill, not luck, belief. And belief makes doors respond. Of course, most people don't even try. They see a door and immediately disqualify themselves. They say it's too big, too heavy, too far out of reach. They build stories in their heads about rejection before they even take a step. And in doing so, they fulfill their own prophecy. The door doesn't open. Not because it wasn't meant to, but because they never approached with belief. Fear is the lock. Doubt is the chain. And people walk around carrying both, convincing themselves they were locked out when, in truth, they locked themselves out. When you finally strip away the fear, something strange happens. Doors stop looking like obstacles and start looking like invitations. What felt intimidating becomes magnetic. You begin to understand that closed doors aren't closed to everyone. They're closed to those who don't believe. The second you believe, you stop seeing a barrier and start seeing a challenge. You stop asking, "What if I fail?" and start asking, "What if I don't even try?" That shift changes everything. But belief isn't about arrogance. It's not about pretending you know everything or forcing your way in blindly. It's about quiet conviction. It's about walking toward the door with the sense that it was built with your hand in mind. When you believe, you knock differently. You wait differently. You endure differently. And more often than not, the door eventually gives way. Not because it suddenly decided you were worthy, but because you decided you were. That's the game people don't want to face. They'd rather blame luck, circumstances, timing. They'd rather complain about how doors never open for them. But the truth is harsher. The door responds to belief, and they never carried enough of it. They showed up with hesitation, with insecurity, with doubt dripping from their every move. And the door stayed closed, not because it hated them, but because they announced with their own energy that they didn't belong. The irony is that belief doesn't guarantee the door opens instantly. Sometimes it resists. Sometimes it creaks slowly, testing your patience. Sometimes it forces you to knock again and again until your knuckles bleed. But if you truly believe it's yours, you keep pressing, you keep pushing, you keep knocking, and eventually it moves. That's the proof. Not that it was impossible, but that it was always waiting for someone who refused to doubt. Doors open only when you believe they're meant for you, because belief is the invitation, the password, the spark. Without it, you'll wander hallways full of closed doors and die wondering why none of them opened. With it, you'll find that doors you thought were impossible were never locked at all.